Just imagine hearing that. One second, it's a completely normal afternoon, and the very next, an absolute inferno just erupts out of nowhere. This is the story of the Wang court fire, a disaster that unfolded with terrifying, unbelievable speed.
And that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth does a single spark manage to engulf 8 apartment towers? In a super modern city like Hong Kong, how does something like this spiral so completely out of control, trapping thousands of people? Well, we're going to break down exactly how it all went down. Okay, so our story, it really begins right where the fire did, on the scaffolding that was wrapped around the outside of the building. And that material, well, it turned out to be the perfect fuel for a catastrophe. To really get a handle on just how massive this tragedy was, you gotta picture Wang Court. We are not talking about a small apartment block here. This was a sprawling complex. 8 towers, each one 31 stories high, with almost 4,000 people living there. It wasn't just a building. It was basically a whole neighborhood stacked right up into the sky. And this is the absolute kicker, the one detail that changes everything. For over a year, this entire complex was wrapped up in a giant web of traditional bamboo scaffolding for a huge renovation project. So just think about what that means. It's like someone built a giant bone-dried tinderbox and just wrapped it around thousands of homes. So let's get into how this whole thing spread. And the speed is just terrifying. This wasn't some slow burn, you know? It was more like an explosion. It blew up so fast that it completely overwhelmed the first responders and gave residents practically zero time to react.
Wow, I mean, look at this timeline. It's just chilling. A resident actually spotted the fire on the scaffolding as early as 2 p.m., but the fire department wasn't officially alerted for almost another full hour. By then, it was already growing. And then look, less than an hour later, it's already a level 4 alarm. By the time evening rolls around, it hits level 5. That's the highest possible alert, something Hong Kong hadn't seen in over a decade.
So the fire kicked off on the scaffolding of just one tower, Wong Chong House. But that bamboo, it acted like a giant fuse. The flames didn't just climb straight up. No, they raced sideways, literally leaping across the empty space to the towers right next door, Wong Tai House and Wong Xing House. The efficiency of this fire was horrifying. It didn't stop at 1, 2, or even 3 towers. By early evening, the flames had raced across that scaffolding to ignite all 8 buildings in the complex, all of them. And with all 8 towers ablaze, the lives of every single one of those nearly 4,000 residents were now in immediate, mortal danger. So you're probably asking, how? How did this happen? Why did this fire spread with such devastating efficiency? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was, a perfect storm of factors that created a totally unstoppable catastrophe. It all started with the bamboo itself, incredibly flammable. Then you add in strong winds that basically acted like a giant bellows, just fanning the flames. To make things even worse, residents had been complaining for months about construction workers apparently smoking on site. And then, as the fire raged, the structure started to collapse, raining burning debris down and making it almost impossible for firefighters to even get close. And this quote from the deputy fire chief on the scene, it says it all. The heat was so intense, they couldn't even enter the buildings to rescue people or fight the fire from the inside. They were trapped on the outside, forced to watch this inferno just consume the towers from the ground up. But the crazy thing is, the physical fire was only half of the disaster. It was made so much worse by a complete breakdown of the very systems designed to protect people. The flames were one problem, the silence was another. Think about what should happen in a fire. You expect to hear alarms, right? Well, they were silent. You'd expect some kind of clear evacuation plan. Instead, residents described total chaos. For a lot of them, the first warning wasn't an alarm at all, but a security guard frantically knocking on their door. And this resident's comment, it just cuts right to the heart of the failure. In a fire that moves this fast, a few minutes is the difference between life and death. Without an alarm, anyone who was sleeping or just wasn't paying attention had almost no chance. And this wasn't some bolt from the blue. For months, residents had been voicing concerns about the construction, about workers' safety, and about the very conditions that led to this disaster. They felt their warnings went completely unheeded.
The real tragedy here isn't just that the fire alarms failed on the day of the blaze, but that the alarm bells raised by the community had been ignored for months. And ultimately, all of these cascading failures of materials, of systems, of oversight had a devastating and irreversible human cost for the community of Wang Court. 13 people lost their lives. That number includes residents who were trapped in their homes, and tragically a 37-year-old firefighter who went in to fight the blaze and lost contact with his team. He was later found inside, having made the ultimate sacrifice. And on top of the fatalities, 28 other people were injured. 6 of them were left in critical condition, facing life-altering injuries from the smoke and flames. To put this all in perspective, this wasn't just another fire. For a city that had drastically improved fire safety over the decades, this was a shocking regression. It became the deadliest fire Hong Kong had seen in over a decade, a profound blow to the community's sense of security. And that leaves us with a final, lingering question. Sure, the story of Wang Court is about bamboo and wind and alarms that didn't sound. But it's also a story about responsibility. In our dense, vertical cities where thousands of us are stacked one on top of another, this disaster forces us all to ask, are the safety nets we rely on truly secure? And who is responsible for making sure they are?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.